They say nothing happens overnight here in our county, central North Carolina, except maybe the weather. But if you ask around, there's one day that really did change everything, and most of us had no idea. It was October 1st, 1991. Yep, 1991. And that was the day the tractors met the traffic. The county lines blurred, and the people who'd spent generations planting rows woke up to find the roads were being replaced with, well, roads. Stay tuned, and because this is the story of how Johnston County went from farmland to front yards, and if you've been seeing the news, we ain't even close to being done yet. It's hard to pick one date when everything changes, but for us, in Johnston County particularly, that date was October 1st, 1991. On paper, it looked simple. It's called a countywide land use zoning goes into effect. But in reality, it was the day the ground itself felt a little bit different. After 250 years of farming in rural rhythm, Johnston County decided to draw lines, permanent lines, on the land that had always been open. Before that, things were pretty simple. Fields rolled out of the horizon, tobacco barns leaned just a little bit, still stood stubborn. The county seat in Smithfield was small and steady. Folks worked their own land or taught or operated a local business in town, and Raleigh, 30 minutes north, might as well have been a whole nother world. Those of you that have lived here then, you know what I mean. People who went there for work or shopping, they packed lunch and they left early. Then Interstate 40 stretched its long gray arm through the heart of the county, and almost instantly, the place didn't feel so far from the city anymore. The highway made everything closer, and that made the farmland more valuable than the farm itself. And that's when things began to sprout a little bit differently. Fewer crops, now rooftops were the new harvest. Developers looked at open land the way farmers once looked at fertile soil, full of possibility and profit. And so, by the fall of 1991, Johnston County leaders realized they needed rules and they needed them fast. Land use zoning arrived almost like a storm warning. One day you could build a barn by your pond, and the next you needed a new map to know whether that land was R15 or RA30. Locals joked that you needed bilingual skills now, English and bureaucrat. But the truth was, zoning made Johnston County official, modern, planned, and a little bit complicated. Many farmers started selling bits of their land, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes eagerly. Little by little, those decisions built the future that we drive through today. A half acre became a starter home. A dirt road became a neighborhood. By the late 1990s, Clayton wasn't a small town anymore. It was practically a Raleigh suburb with a barbecue personality. People started moving here because Johnston County offered what Wake County couldn't: space, quiet, affordable land. Folks would say, I work in Raleigh, but I live in Johnston County, and they meant it with pride. It was the best of both worlds, at least for a while. But growth, like kudzu, is easy to plant and really hard to control. By the 2020s, even longtime residents started shaking their heads at traffic lights that never used to exist. Schools swelled to where they couldn't hold all the kids anymore. Farmland shrank. The county that once fed the city became the city's bedroom. And now here, in 2026, Johnston County finds itself at another crossroads. Figuratively and literally, county leaders have drafted something called a Unified Development Plan. Their biggest attempt yet to bring everything zoning, land use, growth under one roof. It's Zoning 2.0, written in the language of density studies, smart growth, and mixed-use corridors. They're trying to protect what's left of Johnston County's rural character while making room for the 250,000 residents who call it home and thousands more moving in every year. Now, it's not an easy balance because I just said that trying to protect Johnston County's rural character while at the same time trying to limit the number of hens you can have. Everyone agrees the county can't stay a secret forever, but nobody wants to look like Cary. Or as one guy told me last week, if I wanted Cary, I'd have moved there before they ran out of room. So our Unified Development Plan tries to do something bold. Put the brakes on sprawl just enough to save Johnston's soul without stopping progress entirely. It's tricky, like trying to mend a quilt while everyone's still sleeping under it. But here's the thing, despite all that change, the suburban streets, the coffee shops where cotton once grew, Johnston County hasn't really forgotten what it is. Well, at least not the older folks. The people who grew up here in the old days still tell stories that start with back when. The people who moved here recently might listen, maybe smile politely, then maybe start to understand why the county feels the way it does. Proud, protective, a little cautious, but we've always been moving forward. And if you drive far enough, you can still find traces of that old county. A stretch of red clay visible through trees, a rusted tobacco barn caught between new cul-de-sacs, a two-lane road that winds past pastures and into memory. I mean, it's all still there under the asphalt, though. In the soil, and the people who remember it, yeah, so when someone asks why zoning matters or why October 1st, 1991 was such a big deal, the answer isn't found in the text of the ordinance. It's in that moment when Johnston County decided to plan its future rather than let it happen by accident. No, the county didn't stop changing that day. It just started managing its change, for better or worse. And 35 years later, the same story continues. New maps, new names, new neighborhoods, all built on the same ground that's been tilled since the 1700s and occupied since before then. Not saying that the ordinances are perfect or even good, but it's a change. October 1st, 1991, the day the rows turned into roads, the day Johnston County started becoming what it is now, something between county and city, history and possibility. And this time, who knows what's going to happen with this new unified development plan? Who knows? But somebody's going to shape it. Somebody's going to shape what we're going to turn into, because what we've been, it ain't there. Well, that's why this podcast exists, is to maybe help remind us who we have been. Because if there's one thing that Johnston County reminds us, is that change doesn't happen all at once. It starts with a single date, a single decision, and then it never really ends. And this is Joe Koyo, where stories of the past, present, and whatever comes next for Johnston County is where we're going to talk about it. Good day.